we finally, I think, okay, this happened in late August, and federal government's just acting now. They just starting to send like a couple dozen FEMA trailers here.
Okay.
And these are people that are in one of the most strategic spots in the United States. 90% of the oil and gas that is flowed through here, through our country, goes through Port Fourchon. And Fort Fourchon's actually 68 miles from where I live, but they were ground zero. They had clocked winds there of 222 miles an hour.
Wow. Dang.
And these are the people that are working there in the seafood business also. I have one friend of mine, Dean Blanchard. He supplies 13% of the seafood in the United States. One dude, one raging Cajun from the bayou, 13%. And federal government could care less, really, to be honest about you. They treat it like insurance. Go move somewhere else, okay? And for a lot of these people, they may not have another choice, and it would hurt everybody, but these are the people that are working those oil and gas rigs and getting through all that. You got a lot of people here say, we've just turned that spigot off. If you bitching about $3.25 a gallon gas, you really bitch if that thing gets turned off. But it would hurt everybody, including us. So, it's just hard to see how inept. And it's on. Come on, this isn't a Democrat, Republican, Independent thing. They all screw ups, every one of them. And so they only won't come here for a photo op, everyone. So it's really a sad situation. Goes to show you, when you pull that lever in the box, you better make sure your local officials are the best people, because those are the people that really, if you were like Lone Ranger, they were the people that came through. I'm talking about parish presidents and mayors and sheriff's department, people like that. They were the real heroes in all this to get everything up. I was without electricity for 16 days, and home generators are great, man. Natural gas. I got tipped off by a friend of mine in 2008. He was like, Mike, you got extra money, invest in Generac. And I'm like, well, man, what you talking about? At that time, there were a few people I'd heard of with home generators, but it was mostly, just for like independent use, or if you want to go camping. And that's a big thing here now. If you had it, very fortunate.
Well,
but I'll send you that link, Mickey.
Please do.
I really will.
We'll tweet it
Please do. We'll tweet it out. I promise you, Mike, and we'll be happy to do that. All right, let's talk a little football. Saints and Titans getting ready to play. I want to ask the first question about this because I get to talk about one of my favorite people, one of my fellow Arkansas State alums. You got a great one in Demario Davis down there.
Other than Alvin Kamara, he's the best football player on this team.
Ooh.
I mean, I think I'm back, it's over 35 years me covering the NFL and college football. I can't remember another linebacker in his 30s hit his prime.
Yeah.
Most of the time, those guys, 25 to 28, Davis, he bounced around this league all over. Jets, Browns, Jets. He comes here with the Saints, and he's a star player. Really is. Been just tremendous. Great leader. And as much as I can talk about how talented he is, he's an even better person. Really is. Just a tremendous guy on and off the field. And he's taken the mantle, so to speak, from Drew Brees. He's the leader on this football team. Just a great football player. And, man, you wish you had like I know you can't have 22 like that, but you wish you had about 15 of them because, man, he can play. He's smart, great instincts. And it doesn't matter if it's against the run or he's blitzing the quarterback, pass coverage. He is superb, just superb.
Oh, well, I love hearing it. Hopefully he plays great on Sunday, but not so great that the Saints can win this. Mike Detillier, our guest. He is at Mike Detillier, M&D Draft Report, Saints Report, WWL Radio, and a whole bunch of other great media spots for him.
No doubt, Mike. Thanks for coming on, man. And I guess sticking with the defense, since you were talking about Demario Davis, is what about that front four? Because you guys, when you look at the stats, you guys have done pretty solid versus the run, and that's what the Titans like to do, run the football and set up the play-action pass. So kind of take us through what the defense has been like this season consistently versus the run, as well as getting after the passer?
Blaine, we have 3 or 4 camps here on the Bayou. You know, everybody knows about the Manning one, but we have the biggest offensive defensive line camp in the country, Louisiana line camp. And Ryan Nielsen, who's the Saints defensive line coach, is one of the guys that's there every year. And so, you know, him and I sit down, we have a long interview. Before I even ask the first question to him, he's like, hey, he says, kiddo, he says, don't ask me about a pass rush first. Always ask me about stopping the run. Because if we can do that, I can do a lot of different things to get after your ass, you know, as a quarterback. I can do a lot if we can stop it. And it's been a point of emphasis for Ryan and that defensive line. We wondered a little bit about how that would be this year because there was some reshuffling of the interior of the defensive line. Sheldon Rankins became a free agent, and he took off to the Jets. And then Malcolm Brown, he got dealt off to Jacksonville. David Onyemata's just coming back after a 6-game suspension. Maybe the most gifted football player on this team. I mean, there ain't much he can't do. Wow. I mean, he is a load in the middle as a pass rusher and also against the run. Shy Tuttle, a former University of Tennessee guy who was hurt so much for the Volunteers. Now, Ryan recruited him when he was at North Carolina State and remembered that, and he got him here. He's played real solid inside. And they've used a lot of different combinations. Tano Passano, who they got from the Chiefs, has been worked inside a defensive tackle. Marcus Davenport, who he is super talented also, just he's injured all the time, so you got a difficult spot with him. But he's also worked at defensive tackle. Cam Jordan's been absolutely terrific against the run. It has been a huge point of emphasis for this football team to stop the run and then get after the quarterback, pressure the quarterback. And it's worked all but really 2 games this year. Carolina game you got to throw out. They got torched against Carolina. But it did work against the Giants. They couldn't get to Daniel Jones, and last week they couldn't get to Matt Ryan. And they got to him late twice, but the rest of the time he's sitting back there. He could have made the sandwich, brought it to the picnic, ate it, and came back. I mean, they no effect on him throwing the football, but in answering your question, they've done a really good job stopping the run almost all year long. That has been a huge point that Sean has gotten out to the rest of his team. Hey, listen, if we can stop the run, then we can get a pass rush with the guys we got. Didn't work last week, though. They stopped the run. Falcons didn't get squat running the football. But Matt Ryan was hot, and he just absolutely torched them.
Well, that then leads to how's the pass defense, because I'm interested to see if Lattimore matches up with A.J. Brown or Julio, how that whole process.
You can bank that's going to happen. It's going to be Lattimore up against A.J. I think it may be some mix and match because he's familiar, too, with Julio. You know, they've tangled a few times here. But I think if you're looking at it from the Saints' point of view, the guy that I think they fear right now is A.J. Brown, is run after catch skills. And that's the other thing with this football team, that they have really stopping the run, but also Sean had explained to us on WWL a few times that, you know, I'm looking now when I pick a corner or a safety, they better be able to tackle. So, you know, years ago, we had a corner, you know, you'd make a half-hearted effort, but, you know, you're going for the lower body, just the knockdown. So today you got to get guys that can tackle out in the open field, because as you get smaller, and it's funny, this happened about 4 years ago. Brian Flores, he was with the Patriots at Louisiana line camp, stood up and said, okay, all you geniuses that are talking about us and this 3 and 4 wide receiver set and how we going to combat it, you know what you're going to have to figure out, and fast? How we stop the run. Because we're getting smaller and smaller on defense with all these nickel and dime sets. We better find defensive backs who can tackle. If not, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. And I think that is something going to be interesting. Tannehill's going to go after whoever the rookie's guarding and Paulson Adebo. He's been used to that all year long. They've went at that side. They did acquire Bradley Roby, who has also played solid, but every team has picked on the rookie from Stanford, Paulson Adebo. It has not been on Lattimore.
Going with Mike Detillier, NFL draft, and Saints, of course. Got to ask you, I guess, real quickly, before Mickey goes into the Kamara, the quarterback situation, everything else, is what was Jack Rabbit like when he was there at cornerback?
Man, Jack Rabbit.
You laugh.
He was one of the true characters in the Sean Payton time frame. Now, we had a lot of those guys before Sean, but Jack Rabbit, and we did a show with him in the offseason. You know, at one time, Jack Rabbit, he led the NFL in, like, holding penalties and stuff for a defensive back. And he explained it to us, man, you know, one of the things I do is I want to see if that referee's going to call it. He said, you know, I pull and tug on that guy. Sometimes I get away with it. And I know that they're going to let me do that most of the game. But he said, they get me on for a couple of them early. I'm letting him loose. He brought a swagger to this defense that they didn't have before in the secondary. He brought that. Great confidence, could play the ball well in flight. Now, he's going to get penalized because he's going to take some chances. But he was really something. And he would light the flame on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, on C.D. Deuce. Man, C.D. Deuce getting a lot of penalties, but they were almost like a tag team together. A lot of times, Jack Rabbit would set up the fight or the push and the shove, and then next thing you know, CD's involved with it, and CD gets the penalty, and, you know, Jack Rabbit was the one who kind of lit the flame. Yeah. They were a great tag team here together, believe me. And they get into the head of a wide receiver like you wouldn't believe. And so he was great here. He really was. He was the one free agent in the offseason every one of us talked about. Man, if we could keep that guy, this defense would be much better. And so we miss him. I ain't kidding you. He brought a lot to the table. And, yeah, he's mouthy. And, yes, he's got a certain attitude, but he can play.
Our buddy Mike Detillier, our guest at Mike Detillier on Twitter. So how healthy is Alvin Kamara right now? I saw that he missed practice yesterday. How's he doing, and do you think he'll play Sunday?
I think he plays, but he's not a big back. So, you know, he's taking a lot of pounding. He's carting not just one bucket of water for this team. He's carting two. And so you can see where he went into the tent, the medical tent, late against Atlanta, and then came right back out. And so there's some issue, knee, ankle problems he's got. And listen, nobody's healthy. No, Blaine can address this. Man, once you this far into the season, everybody got something wrong, one way or another, or you're not playing. It's one of those things. But he's sort of beat up right now, but he's going to play. I do expect this. I think you're going to see more of Mark Ingram in this game carrying the football than you have the other two games. I think they're going to lean a little bit more on Ingram. Because Alvin is sort of nicked up a bit, the one nightmare scenario with him is coming out the flat as a receiver. Because, you know, we've talked to coaches and defenders are like, you know, there's nobody that can cover him one-on-one when he gets downfield. And he's got another gear in space. So, but I do have that feeling that Mark Ingram is going to have a lot more touches in this game than he's had the prior 2 weeks since they acquired him from the Texans.
All right, running short on time, Mike, but before we let you go, I wanted to ask this. Taysom Hill, how much do you think we see of him versus Trevor Siemian, like the distribution of who plays quarterback?
I think Trevor's the guy for this game. You're going to see Taysom in that gadget role, you know, utility guy. playing as a running back, playing as a basically running back at quarterback. You're going to see him also in the slot as a receiver on special teams. Now, he's just coming back from a concussion that he was out for 3 weeks. Last week was his first venture back. And so they careful with him, but I think you're going to see him in that dual role. And Trevor's going to be the guy. They didn't lose the game last week because of Trevor. They lost the game because they had 6 drop passes in that game. And no heat at all on Matt Ryan until late.
Speaking of that, drop passes real quick. Do you have interest in OBJ? How much?
Well, I know one thing. Sean's playing like college recruiter right now. I mean, man, I don't know how much he's promising and everything else, but I know the Saints are in the hunt. The thing with it is, if you looking around and you can play with Pat Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers, or you come here to play for Trevor, that sales pitch better be pretty doggone good with Sean to get him to sign here. But, listen, he's from this area, went to LSU. But, he is setting this up for his next big payday in 2022. Yep. So, I hope he would come here because he'd be the number one option. Believe me, Deontay Harris is the number one option here. And he is a very good little player. But he's awfully small. He's 5'6", and come on, you can't pump him the football 8-9 times in a game. So I think that's the big thing with the Saints, that OBJ would be your number one guy if he signs with the Saints.
Oh man,
Mike, you're the best. We love talking to you. Send me those links or anything you want to send. We'll put that out and try to get some help for your neighbors down there. Thank you, buddy. Always grateful for your time.